What's up, everyone, and welcome into episode number 486, where this will be a solely Detroit Lions episode. It's going to be recapping their 27-13 loss at the Green Bay Packers and also previewing their Week 2 matchup against the Chicago Bears. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. So obviously we have to get started out with their Week 1 loss against the Green Bay Packers. This was a game that, going into it, there was a lot of hype about. It was going to be a game trying to figure out what this offense, what this defense was going to be for the Lions. And I truly think coming out of this game, there's more questions than answers that we got throughout this game. And it truly starts with this offensive line for the Lions. The offensive line for the Lions struggled throughout this game. Now, everyone struggled. You even had Penny Sewell get graded out extremely low, especially going up against Micah Parsons, which he got his first sack as a Green Bay Packer towards the end of the game. Everyone struggled on this offensive line. But true main guys that truly struggled was Graham Glasgow and Tate Ratledge. Now, Tate is obviously a rookie, so you can't necessarily blame him too much. But at the same time, what made the Lions good last year was an offensive line that dominated from the beginning. And this was an offensive line throughout this game that wasn't really getting a ton of push, at least wasn't opening the holes that they were able to open last year. If you look at the Lions overall offensively, only had 46 yards rushing the ball on 22 carries. I would love to see what the stat last year for the lowest amount of yards rushed for in a specific game. If I had to guess, it's probably not really close. Maybe the Baltimore game, maybe a couple other games they might have been close that they got absolutely blown out in. But they really struggled running the ball. And that one is a main concern. Another main concern is the protection about Jared Goff. And if you actually look at the statistics, just how everyone else did, it really truly seemed like Jared Goff actually had a decent amount of time. Now, it really didn't truly seem like that during the actual game, but it was also because John Morton. And obviously, this is his first time calling plays in Detroit. There's familiarity with him. He's been in Detroit before, but calling plays is different. And there were several times, and there's screenshots on the internet where basically 3 or 4 of the wide receivers or tight ends are running basically the same exact route or kind of in the same exact area or distance range. Like, you cannot afford to do that. And I think this was not a great audition for John Morton. Obviously, without having a run game, it gets really difficult. Now, John Morton, I thought, did have some good design plays, but this truly was a different type of offense than what we've seen under Ben Johnson. And it might take some time. There's definitely a lot of frustration regarding John Morton and this offense. You also saw guys that just didn't perform as well as they typically do. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 receptions, 45 yards. You also didn't really see the Lions take a shot downfield. Now, I do think a little bit of that has to do and give credit to Green Bay for how well they were able to defend the ball down the field. But there's a lot of checkdowns. Like, if you look at basically how many catches Jahmyr Gibbs had, he had 10 catches for 31 yards. It was just check down, check down, check down over and over and over again. Now, obviously, what that's going to lead to is long drives. It's going to lead to really milking the clock down the field. And when you really do that, you need to convert in the red zone with touchdowns. And that truly, in my opinion, was the biggest difference of this game. If you look at the red zone trips between the Lions and the Packers, there's really not too much of a difference. The major difference is what the teams did in the red zone. The Packers were able to get the ball into the end zone. The Lions settled for field goals. Now, am I saying that this was a game that was a lot closer than it seemed? No, I'm not saying that whatsoever, because I truly think that overall, if you look at the bigger picture of this game, the Packers were the better team. And I think it truly starts with their offense. I thought Jordan Love was really good in this game. I didn't think that the Packers ran the ball extremely well, which you do have to give credit to the Lions' defensive line. I think Tyreek Williams did have some opportunities and did some good work in the middle. Now, obviously, he's a rookie. He's still learning. He dealt with some double teams throughout this game that he could fight a little bit harder on. But I thought the defensive line overall stopping the run was very good. Now, towards the end of it, when it was kind of getting out of hand, the Lions were getting a little tired. There was a few more holes really opening up for a guy like Josh Jacobs, but there wasn't really ever that big of a run until a little bit later on, which I think it was like maybe like 10 yards at the most, maybe a little bit more than that. So I think if you look at overall, there's some good things to take away from the Lions, which is the run defense. There's also the big concerns defensively. And while I think Kelvin Shepard can be a good defensive coordinator in Detroit, there were some things that he did that shocked me, and I fully do not understand at all. And one of those things was putting Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport in coverage. Now, I understand that sometimes you have to get unique, sometimes you have to do things differently, but putting those guys in coverage on a third down when you struggle mightily to get pressure on the quarterback, I truly don't know why you would ever do that. You have two of your best quote-unquote edge rushers on this team. At one point, you have one of them playing pass coverage. Why? Like, Aiden Hutchinson throughout this game got double-teamed. Lions barely got any pressure throughout this game. Jared Goff was getting pressured a lot of the game. Like, truly, the biggest difference between these two teams are, one, what they did in the red zone, but two, which team was able to provide and have pressure consistently throughout the game. And I truly think that is the biggest disappointment if I'm a Lions fan when it comes to defenses. There's been talk about all offseason the Lions need to get another pass rusher. They need to get another defensive end. And in this one game so far, we saw why that is the case. And obviously, Aiden Hutchinson didn't have the greatest performance. He's coming back from injury. Might take a little bit to get used to. But at the same time, when you have that, you need your other edge to step up. The good thing is Marcus Davenport stayed healthy in this game. So obviously that's a really good sign. You need him to stay healthy. But there was very, very little pass rush in this game. And Dan Campbell did talk about it on a radio show, I think 97.1 earlier today. And basically he talked about kind of the pass rush and how you can really have a different type of pass rusher. It's not really the flashy defensive ends all the time. Sometimes it's about getting a little bit of a rush in the middle, making the quarterback uncomfortable, making quarterbacks throw the ball a little quicker. But guess what? In this game, Jordan Love didn't have to do that. He was able to stand in the pocket. He was able to find his wide receivers in Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Wicks. Tucker Kraft ended up scoring a touchdown from a great route in the red zone for the only touchdown for a tight end in this game. Like, Jordan Love felt comfortable back there. And I understand the approach that Dan Campbell has in wanting to get pressure up the middle, wanting to make the other quarterback uncomfortable. But when you don't do that, and when you have your defensive ends that are supposed to be your pass rusher in pass coverage, how defensively are you expected to stop the other team? Now, in the second half, I thought the Lions overall defensively actually performed better than they did in the first half. I think offense, while they had some signs in the second half, I don't know if you can necessarily say that they performed better. I think that this Packers offense is good. I'm not going to say elite, but I think they're good. I think the Packers defense is good. I do think you have to give credit to them for stepping up, making things uncomfortable, playing physical defense, forcing the Lions to throw the ball a little bit more than what they're used to. but it truly, truly is disappointing just to see how this team reacted. And obviously, it is not the end of the season. It is game one. I also would love to see Isaac Tesla perform more and play in the game more. His one-handed catch was truly, really the one takeaway I think Lions fans had is why didn't he play more snaps? He played 3 snaps in this game. Khalif Raymond played 44. No offense to Khalif Raymond, but Isaac Tesla should be playing 20-plus snaps, in my opinion. Not only because of the catch that he had, but how much of a difference he can make in this game. And you saw J-Mo have at least one catch. Amon-Ra is going to be a consistent guy. Sam Laporta is going to be a consistent guy. You need a wide receiver number 3 that can truly make a difference in this game. And Isaac Tesla is going to be that guy. I don't necessarily know if Khalif Raymond is that guy. Now, again, if you put Isaac Tesla instead of Khalif Raymond in this game, does this game change very much? No, but it's because of, again, the offensive line, also the defensive line not getting enough pressure in this game to cause Jordan Love to get uncomfortable, and not enough time for Jared Goff, not enough great play calling from John Morton, not enough being able to run the ball in the middle. Those are going to be the things that are really going to affect this team, and those are going to be the things that are really going to be the difference in this next game between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Cubs that's coming up on Sunday, and that's going to be a huge game for the Lions. You don't necessarily love saying that this is a must-win game, especially week 2 of the NFL season, but it truly is a must-win game if you're the Lions, because if you look at statistically, the teams that have made the playoffs starting like 0-2, I believe it's like 11 or 12%. Like, it's pretty low. And if you end up losing this game against the Chicago Bears, you got the Ravens the next week. Like, if you lose to the Bears, if you lose to the Packers, I don't think you can expect to lose to the Ravens. You're 0-3 at that point. And you have Super Bowl aspirations, or at least Super Bowl beliefs going into the season. You cannot start 0-3 if you want to get there. Now, is it the end of the world if they do? No, but there's going to be true panic at that point. There's going to be real issues. There's going to be real questioning of, is Ben Johnson really what made this offense go? With that being said, this is a game that I truly think that the Lions are going to be up for, that they're going to be prepared, that they're going to fight for. Because, one, this is the first home game of the year against the Bears. Also, guess what? Ben Johnson is back in town. Like, he is on the Bears as their head coach. If that doesn't motivate you enough to get ready to go, to call your best games, to play physical, to win this game, I truly don't know what else it would be, like, at all. And Dan Campbell even specifically said, like, we need to win this game. We're going to win this game. Do I necessarily believe that 100%? I think the Lions are going to be the favorite. Absolutely. I think the Lions, if you look on paper, is the more talented team. The only issue, again, relies on communication. Communication has to be better. Dan Campbell talked about that in 97.1. Communicating with your offensive line, communicating with the defense. There's communication issues against the Packers. There's communication issues on the offensive line. There was blown coverages on defense several times. Now, I do think Alex Anzalone played pretty well. I don't want to blame him necessarily for that. There's also some really untimely penalties. Like, you had a pick 6 from Brian Branch, but it came back because of a holding call from Yasin. Like, there's real possibilities here that this Packers game could have completely changed. Now, this Lions team, they might look different against the Bears because guess what? Terrion Arnold got hurt in this game. He might not necessarily be back. It doesn't seem like there's any long-term injuries from this Packers game, but it's going to truly be a different defense going out there. You might have to really depend on like a DJ Reed and like a Yasin to be your CB1 and CB2. And you're going up against not only Ben Johnson, but you're going up against an offense that is led by Caleb Williams that ended up losing yesterday to the Minnesota Vikings. they looked really good offensively in the first drive of this game. Outside of that, I thought they struggled to run the ball. I think this offensive line for the Bears are better than what they had last year. Do I want to say that the running backs are great? No, not necessarily. But they do have guys like Rome Odunze. They do have DJ Moore. DJ Moore did take a really big hit in the game. I do think he's going to be completely fine. I do think he's going to play. And we saw the Bears really kind of cause issues for the Lions defense last year in Ford Field. Like, there's a real possibility that that could happen again. And it could be a really high-scoring game. And if that's the case, are you going to trust John Morton to call this game plan? Are you going to trust this offense? Are you going to trust this offensive line? There's going to be growing pains throughout the season. Is it going to be in this game? Are they going to be able to get enough wins for when they finally get confident and kind of get going? I think this is a real possibility for the Lions to kind of get right in this game. I think this offensive line will continue to struggle a little bit because I think the Bears' defense and defensive line is pretty good. We might see a little bit better of a run game. We'll definitely see better communication, which I definitely think that will help going into that. But it's a real opportunity here for the Lions to make noise. And while it is the Bears, you need to win comfortably, or you need to win by more than your favorite. You need to make some noise. You need to come in and say, yes, week one wasn't good, but we're a better team than that. And that truly starts with John Morton calling the plays. That truly starts with the offensive line having better communication. That means that Graham Glasgow is going to have to be better. That means Tate Ratledge is going to have to be better. That means Penei Sewell is going to have to be better. Taylor Decker is going to have to be better. They're going to have to figure this offensive line out. And if they are able to run the ball, if they give Jared Goff more time, and the Lions can take shots down the field, which I think adding in Isaac Tesla would help with that because you have Jamo, Tesla, and then Amon-Ra. Like, that's really tough to beat. That's going to be helpful for this offense. And then defensively, do not put Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport in pass coverage. Please throw that away. I understand sometimes you need to get unique, like I said earlier, but when you have a defense that struggled to get a pass rush, I've watched other teams like Michigan State struggle to get a pass rush. There's nothing better than having a team that can get a pass rush. There's nothing better to a defense than forcing a quarterback to throw early. The Lions need to figure out a way to do that. If that means sending more pressure, if that means having one-on-one opportunities with Rome Odunze, with DJ Reed, fine. You might get beat at some point, but you need to figure out a way to get pressure on Caleb Williams. And even when they got pressure on Caleb Williams, the Vikings did last night, he was able to extend. So you need to keep Caleb Williams in the pocket. You need to not let him gain confidence in this game. And this offense needs to be better in this game. And if they can do that, hopefully the Lions are 1-1, which they've done the last 3 years heading into this year. They haven't started 2-0, so it's not unusual for a 1-1 start for the Lions. If they do that, they look better. Maybe we can have another discussion on heading into Baltimore, maybe having a chance in that game. But guess what? This schedule does not get any easier. You need to figure out a way to beat the Chicago Bears. If you beat the Chicago Bears, one, obviously you beat Ben Johnson, which would be great in itself. But two, hopefully you can gain a little bit more confidence because after this game, it's really hard to have that confidence with this offensive line, with this defense, and it's going to be really hard to keep that going with the fan base if they end up losing this game. So hopefully they don't. Hopefully you can continue that confidence. Hopefully you can get better offensively, defensively as a whole. But we will see what happens on Sunday between the Lions and the Bears. It's going to be hype. Fans are going to be excited. Ben Johnson is returning. You already have Amon-Ra St. Brown talking on his podcast how he's excited to have Ben Johnson back, about how they're going to boo him. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, and hopefully it's going to be a lot happier of an atmosphere than it was this past Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. But yeah, that is a wrap to episode number 486. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. There will also be previews coming out for college football. There will be an interview later this week as well that I'm extremely excited about. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. Please share, subscribe with anyone that you know. If you're listening to YouTube, please do the same thing. Please subscribe. We're trying to get those numbers up. But yeah, really appreciate everyone tuning in, and tune in to the next episode and the college football previews.